Welcome to episode 2 of the Neurotic Podcast, the Internet Computer Podcast with Jesse and Kyle. I'm your host, Jesse Friedman, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Langham. Kyle, we made it to episode 2. We did
We did it. We survived episode
it.
1.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we had some people reference material from episode 1, so there's at least some signs that somebody listened. And yeah, I got one episode done last week and an accepted proposal on the NNS. So
Ooh, yeah. Tell me about your
living
accepted
large.
proposal. How's that feel as president of the NNS now?
Of the
How do you feel?
Yeah, neuron indexing is all me now. No, it's none of it's me. I just put the proposal out there. But no, it feels good. It feels like I said, it was a roller coaster ride, and I'm happy. I'm happy it happened. I'm happy we got off the ground. Right, going from 0 to 1 is always the hardest thing, and so you and I did it last week.
Yeah, we did it. So I think we can pat ourselves on the back and you know, thanks for joining us for episode 2. I think this was great. No. But speaking of passing proposals, we're gonna start the show with a little follow-up where we check in on things we talked about last week, updates, any kind of close out old business before we get into some new topics. So Dominic's tax proposal, proposal 48623, post by 2.3 million votes. We talked about this last week. This was a proposal to change the way that the NNS handles staking and maturity and some of the tax implications therein.
Yeah, so that was. I mean, I think that's the closest governance proposal we've ever had. 2.3 million out of I don't have the number in front of me, but it was 80 million votes or so. So it came down to the wire, and with a lot of like lead changes, right? It's March Madness, so if this was basketball, you saw a lot of lead changes going back and forth there, and maybe not quite a buzzer beater at the end, but it was close. One of the things I found interesting, so I was looking at some of the data that we have, and I would have assumed seed investors would have been uh, real real gaga over this proposal, right? It kind of seemed to appeal to them. But actually, they voted heavily against. There was about 20 million votes against from seed investors, whereas there's only, let's say, 1.5, maybe closer to 1.75 million votes for from seed investors. But it was really the non-Genesis neurons that I could see, at least the known neurons, the non-Genesis ones that voted for it. So I think um, there's probably a lot of whales, I would assume, because it seemed to be a proposal that would be appealing to whales, that came up and voted. And one thing I haven't done is check to see if they voted previously or if these were new voters. But I don't know. I found that pretty interesting, and it's worth saying ICPMN voted against, CycleDAO voted against, and Definity and ICA did not vote at all. They abstained.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I love talking to you about this stuff is I feel like you're Neo looking at the code and you can see all these stories and messages and interesting, I just see a block of numbers and you're pulling all these sort of interesting narratives out of the results that you can see there.
Yeah, and it's I think useful just so you can understand the personas of people who are voting on the NNS. Um, Probably useful to understand who is voting and why, so you can kind of get a feel of where the direction that we might be going in the future. So, so I guess next step is Definity will put together the proof of concept and develop the code. And I'm not sure if there will be another vote to actually implement the code or if it'll just go live and we'll have those tax changes in the NNS at some point.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this all plays out. It's so, to me, it's just so interesting to see how the gears turn and how the system works. That this is, kind of that core idea at the heart of the NNS is change and
Mhm.
adaption and being flexible for the future and trying to move things in, new and interesting ways and why and how we get there.
Yeah, the if anyone has like a couple hours to spend going to the forum, forum.definity.org, and just reading through the comments, it's remarkable both from the energy people put into making a case one way or the other, but just I don't know, just to kind of see how democracy works and see the back end and to have a voting mechanism that automatically, that's very efficient, I should say, to to have all those opinions come out. I don't know. I think we're in a good spot from a governance standpoint, in my opinion.
Well, speaking of opinions, I want to jump into some fresh topics for this week. I've got a tweet right here that you put out with a double microphone emoji on it, so I knew it was serious. That you said, I want to double down on this. I am personally would not allow any service to be a device on my internet identity unless its creator was related to me. If you have another device that you control, that you have full access to on your internet identity, including the ability to kick people off. Tell me, give me a little context. What are you talking about here? Let's talk a little bit about, good security hygiene on the blockchain.
Yeah. So, and actually, I would probably even update that to say not just if you're related to me, but you have to almost be sleeping in my bed before I'm going to add you as add one of your devices to my II. So,
Challenge accepted. First of all, I'll be seeing you real soon.
oh, Jesse.
You wake up in the morning and you're like, what's Jesse doing here? What's Bob doing
Why
here?
why do they both have tablets in their hand and they're asking me to authenticate from my other device?
Listen,
Um,
I'm putting
yeah.
up an NNS proposal that I get to be Little Spoon, okay? And I'm going to start rallying support for it now. We'll get it up. We'll get it up on the forum. Okay, no, but seriously,
Is that's how the NNS works, right? You have to do whatever it says.
well, you do,
Me
Kyle.
personally,
You
yeah,
personally have to do it. All right, Little Spoon, or your Big Spoon, I guess, in this scenario. Tell
yeah.
me,
Well,
tell me about internet identity security.
I'm never a little spoon, and that's the show title right there.
But you feel so safe and
What is this podcast about again? Where are we going?
it's a
Oh yeah,
podcast about cuddling and
serious topic. That's right. So yeah, so on your internet identity, you can have multiple devices, and it's a good idea, in my opinion, to have multiple devices because let's say you're using your phone to log into your internet identity, and your phone breaks, you might be out of luck. So you can add devices. I recommend you add devices that you have full control over. I also recommend you get your seed phrase, write it down, stick it in a safe or a freezer. Freezer I've heard is like a nice little what do you call these, like life hack where it's less likely to get burned. So just throw it in your bottom of your freezer drawer. And um, anyways, going back to the internet identity, adding devices. So specifically, and I'm gonna call them out by name because we've been engaged in Twitter, and to their defense, they've been very receptive of having a conversation. But AstroX is a naming device. I think they're partnered now with IC Naming, correct or no? But either way, as part of their sign-on process to get your name, you have to add them as a device. They've assured that hey, they don't keep record of the private key and all that stuff. So their point is hey, it's safe. My point is once you add a device you don't own, that device literally can be used to kick you off your own account, right? Because you can take off devices. That device could has now access to your seed phrase, and so it's kind of you're in a bad position because they could kick you off at any point. Um, and I'll say this too. My other point is even if, and I have no reason to believe AstroX is not a good actor. They seem to be really responsive within the community. They've got a plan to how to get away from this whole act. My point is we don't want to be training people to allow other devices that they don't control on their internet identity, because at some point there's going to be a bad actor who's going to take advantage of that, and people are going to lose access to their NNS tokens and all of that. So that's where I'm at.
so I want to back up just a little bit to
Yeah.
make sure I'm understanding all of the technical details here because if people are doing what I think you're saying people are doing, I'm going to blow out my microphone screaming into it. Do not do that. I can't believe people are actually doing that. So, internet identity, built-in system, part of the internet computer, you get assigned what they call an identity anchor, which is just an anonymous serial number that you
Mhm.
use to log in. And what it does, it's a super clever system, is it uses the biometric login system built into your computer if you're using like a phone with a fingerprint scanner or Face ID, or if you have a third party like a security key, you can use that as well. And so what it does that's so clever is it has like a authenticated devices list, and you authenticate your device. And so your password is your biometric authentication, and it is stored securely in the secure enclave on your device. So what that means is when you log in, the website is able to say, "Are you really this person?" And it uses your fingerprint, which is not stored on the internet. It's only stored on your secure device to authenticate you and allow you to get in. And so that's how they do a passwordless login to manage. That's how you get in to manage the NNS, for example. And then you can use it to log into lots and lots of different applications on the internet computer. And it's a really, really great system. I'm a huge, huge fan of it. Really encourage developers to put internet identity as the default login system for their apps. So I want to differentiate here. What we're talking about, sort of normal usage, is you use internet identity to log into an application on the internet computer. So you say, "I'm Kyle, here's my fingerprint. I can prove that I'm Kyle," or in this case, a number representing Kyle, and then it lets you in. So that's not what AstroX is asking to do, right? AstroX is saying, "We want you to approve us. We want you to add our iPhone, basically, or our computer to your approved administrative devices." So instead of using, it's not log in with internet identity, it is, "Hey, you can log in as me into my internet identity account." Is that what they're asking people to then do? Is that right?
That's what I understand.
Yeah. So, Kyle, don't do that. Do not do that. Okay. You should absolutely never. You should have multiple devices that are logged in as devices on your internet identity. So when I log in to admit, my internet identity and check to see what devices, I can see my laptop, I can see my desktop computer, I can see my iPhone, I can see my iPad, all the Apple devices, has been well established in episode 1. But those are all my devices that I have physical control over.
Hmm.
None of those live anywhere. None of those are outside of my house or anything like that. None of those belong to a blood relative or anything like that. I used to work in IT, and people's management of passwords used to drive me nuts.
Uh-huh.
Um, this isn't the equivalent of keeping your password on a post-it note stuck to your screen. This is the equivalent of taking that password, putting it in an envelope, and mailing it to somebody, is kind
Hmm.
of what we're talking about. So you're letting them act as you, and don't do that. Never, ever, 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 ever do that. You should not do that. Kyle, are you letting other people's devices log in as you on the internet identity?
Yeah, I mean, people who sleep in my bed with me,
Okay,
their
listen,
devices have
our
access.
personal this podcast is not the place for
So,
you and I to sort out our personal stuff. We've been over this.
um, so yeah, no, I would never do that. However, what I would say is, let's say you do want to try it out because you're like, AstroX is the way I want to go, or there's another service out there you want to use. Create a little burner internet identity for that purpose only. Don't put ICP into it, or if you are very limited ICP, don't connect yourself to the NNS. Just have that identity just for that purpose. But again, keep in mind, like, we don't want to get in the practice where we're allowing other devices onto our II. So
I don't even allow family members to log in as me to services. I'm like, you can have your own Netflix login that doesn't involve my passwords. Yeah, I think it's really, really important to maintain good, sort of digital hygiene in the internet in general, but especially in crypto. And creating burner accounts is cheap and free and highly recommended. It's like one click to spin up a new wallet in Stoic, or in Plug. It's highly, highly recommended. If you have any security concerns, I would lean away. People say trust but verify. You
hmm
don't have to trust. You can not trust less.
well,
Don't
the saying
trust.
is, don't trust, verify.
I thought the saying was
Don't
trust
trust.
and verify was how I always approached it.
Not
But
in crypto. It's like, no, I don't want to have to trust anyone. I want to be able to verify it myself.
yeah, all right.
So
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 for
but
example, Kyle, what's your seed phrase?
Yeah. Okay. Well, hold on. Let me pull it up.
No, that's a
I
test
have
and you're failing
I
it.
have it. I have it. I have it saved in a Google Doc. That let me just. No, I'm just kidding. Um, and I don't want to. There's. So again, I'll go back to AstroX has been very forthright, and they have responded to my tweets. So I definitely recommend everyone go and read the tweet thread. So you have both sides of the story. And I do, if anyone from AstroX is listening to this, I do thank you for engaging in that. And I think there's a further conversation that needs to continue.
Yeah, and I'm not, I think even assuming Astro X is acting in good faith and is not, a bad faith or something like that. I think the things to remember are it doesn't matter if they're acting in good faith or bad faith. You don't create that opportunity. And especially when it comes to things like companies or things like that, leadership changes, too. So just because Astro X is a good guy today doesn't mean they always will be in the future.
Yeah.
And you, as I think, personal responsibility for your security on the internet really does lie with the individual in this case. And that, Dfinity with internet identity can provide these really great tools for security and keeping things safe and your tokens secure. But if you misuse them, there's really nothing to be done because there
Yep.
is no undo button in crypto.
Yep. Yep. We all have our own personal responsibility that we have to maintain. And then, so if we're talking about bad actors, should we move on to the whole bots buying NFTs and then just dumping the floor and how that works? Or
Yeah, take me to NFT. Let's go to NFT town, and tell me a little bit about what has been going on with bots and Entrepot.
yeah, so let's do this quickly. 'Cause, I'm not sure we want this to become just NFT talk, and we've got a ton of good stuff
It's
that happened
NFT
this week.
town. We just
NFT
established
town.
that.
Well, City is the what was it? 3D City or yeah, whatever the recent launch was is kind of what kicked this off. Was they had a mint at 5 ICP. It sold out pretty quickly, other than a few hundred failed transactions that came back on later. But then instantly the floor price plummeted down to I don't know $2.50 ICP, which I guess is not $2.50 ICP. It's 2.5 ICP is the correct way to say that. Um, the Twitter conversations focused on these anonymous message boards where people are collaborating to essentially, and this gets a little bit beyond what I understood, but essentially buy up a bunch of NFTs using a bot so they can buy more, and then listing those at a low price, and somehow and basically locking that listing so nobody could actually buy it at that low price, all for the sake of showing a low price on the marketplace. So people who just bought at 5 ICP freak out and sell theirs for, you know, 2 or 3 ICP. And presumably, I would guess these anonymous people are the ones who are buying it and essentially shaking people out. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, I'm seeing there's a couple different things going on, it seems like. There is people with bots buying up huge swaths, looking for rares, and then dumping everything on the floor, which is definitely, one behavior that's problematic. And then there's also in this case, so people are listing below, establishing a new lower floor, putting in a bid that has, an accepted bid that hasn't gone through, which then locks it to establish this sort of subfloor, I guess we'd call it, a new basement, that cause people to then freak out. So yeah, I think there's a couple things here. One is y'all should diamond hand it a little bit here too, right? Don't you should This is just my sort of general perspective, especially with NFTs, is invest in, projects that you believe in and are excited about. And if you really are, excited about a specific project, Dino Eggs or, the IC cities, don't freak out. Just hold it. Just chill. These like little waves, you only, they say you only take a loss when you sell. And so just hold on to some of these things and, wait for these things to kind of work themselves out over time. I think would be one. That's sort of the personal piece. But also, I think it shows, things are like a little broken, right? This is a very novel, new, unregulated space. And as I see NFT community grows, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this in the future. And so it's a combination of technological restraints to help create a system that doesn't allow people to cheat so easily, and also social, kind of norms to help us as a community enforce good practices as well.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a problem that is possible from a technological standpoint. So maybe there's a technology solution, but certainly from a behavioral standpoint, where it's kind of begs the question of like, well, why would you buy at 5 and then an hour later look to sell for 2 or 3? It almost seems like people aren't understanding what they're buying or what the value of what they're buying should be.
Well, it's a wash. It's using wash sales. So that's where you essentially sell it to yourself to create a fake price, right? So if you sell it to yourself, you have to pay your transaction fee, or you have to pay your royalty on it. But the idea is to cause other people to freak out, post it at a super low price, and then those people get sort of scooped up. So they
Right.
see that low price. But again, if you just don't put it, if you don't look, then you really don't know. And if you don't put it up for sale, then it doesn't impact you. And these things kind of, level out too. And this, by the way, this advice goes for things that don't have people running scams too. Like we were talking about, boy, wish I hadn't sold that flower for a profit, because you hold it for a longer term, and it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
But this is the nature of these highly unregulated markets right now.
Yep. If you don't know the value of what you have, then someone else will set that value for you. So,
Yes. Yeah. And so it's really recommended to kind of internally have an idea of, this is what I think this is worth. And if you really believe in it, you don't need to live and die with the minute to minute price numbers as these things go. It's sort of the same thing. You want to stake your NFTs in the NNS, and, or at least, kind of treat them that way.
yeah.
Block them, take your NFTs, put them in your freezer, and store your NFTs in the freezer, nice and safe, and you can pull them out. And if you get hurt, you can pull your NFT out and use it like a bag of frozen peas on a bruise or something like that. Get some practical utility out of them while you wait for them to accrue value.
Awesome. I like that idea of staking your NFT. My brain's trying to figure out how that would work.
I mean, there is NFT staking happening on other platforms. It
Yeah.
sort of is tied into a lot of the play to earn games and things like
Hmm.
that are building in that system.
That makes sense. It's a
All
token.
right, well, let's just keep going down our list of kind of mini topics that we've got here. Next up, we have a proposal on the NNS to change the name of the Internet computer. So this is proposal 49393, and I actually really like the way this is phrased. They put it up and they describe it as a temperature check. It's a community temperature check to officially rename the Internet computer to Definity Network. And it is getting crushed. As of the recording of this, it's at 18.7% no, with 76.8 million votes against, versus 0.4% yes, with 1,700,000 votes for a yes. So just absolutely getting demolished here,
Yeah,
which
that
is
temperature
nice
check
to
is
see.
well, I guess it depends on which side you're on, but that temperature check came back cold. It doesn't seem like, at least amongst voting members, there's a lot of demand for changing it. Um, but yeah, it was. I was not expecting it when it popped up on my alert. Which, by the way, for anyone who's in the NNS, there's an open chat bot that will tell you whenever there's a governance proposal to vote on, or there's also one for Telegram. Um, Maybe we can put in some show links for that. Um, but no, I like the idea. It popped up out of nowhere. There was a post in the forum at the time that the proposal went live from a entity called Seed DAO, who identified him or herself as a seed investor, representing some other seed investors that discussed in a Telegram. And this was something that they thought we should move forward. And so they basically were just, hey, is this something else other people think? And if so, then if we vote for it, then we'll ask Definity to act on it. So I don't know, just an interesting way to use the NNS, and it'll be interesting to see if these temperature checks are something we use more often moving forward.
Yeah, I like it. I like using the NNS in kind of this new way as a tool, although I definitely could see, a scenario where someone puts something as a temperature check and boy, it gets away from them too in terms of impacting change. Be careful what you vote for, I guess. But what do you think of the name Internet Computer versus Definity? Do you have strong feelings on the branding?
In my mind, the internet computer is what I invested in. Definity is like the steward at this point. And maybe this is just idealistic, but I do hope in the future there are other entities, maybe nonprofits, that are contributing to the internet computer code base, and Definity being one, but then also other ones as a form of decentralization. So I don't see the two as the same thing at all. Um, so I voted against it. I also think in my own story for coming to into the internet computer was the name. I've said this before. If in terms of search engine optimization, the name is not good. Like you could not get more ubiquitous words like internet and computer. But the what it signifies is that this is not a crypto that is aimed at DeFi or anything like it's not it's not a financial crypto. It's not it's something else, and that really attracted me as this idea of a protocol layer for the internet. Um, so, anyways, that's where I was at on it. Where were you at, Jesse?
I completely agree. I the lack of search engine optimization bothers me a little bit. I agree when I'm Googling for something that internet you just take internet computer right out, and I just end up tagging ICP onto
Hmm.
the end of every Google search, and that always directs me to the result I'm looking for. I feel like so I agree. I think there's a branding. I don't know, kind of they're not tension, but maybe there's a little bit of friction there that I totally understand and agree with. But also, all names are crap. All names are terrible. Really great names don't make a product. Really bad names don't make a product. I think, like everything else, people are frustrated with price action. And when you're
Hmm.
frustrated with something like that, you look to blame or assign a reason or let's say if we just change this one thing, this will make all the difference in terms of our price and give us sort of this clean slate is the argument. And I see the grass is greener appeal of that approach,
Hmm.
and I completely reject it and don't agree at all. I like the kind of utopian idealism of the name Internet Computer too. I like that it's a big swing. I like that Dominic brings that. No, this is meant to replace the entire internet. And so it being a generic name really makes it, puts the aspirations. It's very
Hmm.
aspirational, I guess would be a good way to say it, right up front. And I do like that. I think changing the name would be kind of a waste of resources. I think, and things survive with being a name, things grow into the names too, right?
Hmm.
So maybe the name Internet Computer doesn't fit perfectly today because we're on the road to where it's heading. But I
Hmm.
think in the future it'll make a lot more sense, if it achieves its goals.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't achieve its goals, it doesn't matter what its name is. And I don't think, if Nintendo can name something the Wii and get away with it, I think that's great. I think Apple has proven you can just come up with the absolute worst product names imaginable. Sony came up with Walkman, the world's best product name, and then was like, we'll just call this the XJ9000 moving forward. And that works for them too. So people just get really hung up on they're not wrong, but they're really turning a splint. They're treating a splinter like a flat massive a massive loss of a limb here, and I
Hmm.
don't I don't think that's the case at all. So I voted no, and the neurons that I follow all voted no, and so but I think it's interesting, and I like the conversation too.
Yeah.
Even though I don't disagree, even though I disagree, it's easy for me to say that because I got the result I want to see too, I guess. Um, but
That-
I like the debate, and I like that.
yeah.
I think that's one of the things that's so great about the internet computer community is this idea of engaging in sort of scientific, rigorous research, and we're testing a hypothesis here,
Hmm.
right? And I think that approach shows the systems at play working. And so I guess I'm for the proposal, but I'm also for voting against the proposal, is what I would say.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's the what is the quote? Like, I disagree with what you're saying, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. It's kind of that same mindset of, and so yeah, and honestly, if somebody from CDAO is listening to this, and of course they are, because I think the whole IC community is listening to this podcast at this point. Um, the so yeah, I love the fact that they put it out there. I probably would have liked a little bit of time to discuss it in the forum, but that I honestly understand why you wouldn't want to do that, because you might get this vocal minority who sway you one way or another, but actually doesn't have that much voting power anyway. So that's fine. But I particularly like that we see these examples of seed investors coming and actually participating in governance, because there is this idea out there that one of two things, of either the seed investors are all dumping, right? They're getting off the project, they're cashing out, they
Which
got in.
they're not, right? I think we can say with some reasonable authority, based on what you're seeing, with we're not seeing tokens moved off of the platform in a huge way. We're not seeing a huge exodus of tokens headed to Coinbase or headed to Kraken, the new deck,
Hmm.
the new exchange that just added ICP. Instead, what we're seeing is restaking, 8 years, 8 years, 8 years seems to be the drumbeat that we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some seed investors, early contributors. That group, they are predominantly jumping ship, right? They're letting their neurons dissolve. But the seed investors, particularly, which was the bigger of the groups, they, there's almost this bifurcation where I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but maybe it was like half of them just are letting everything dissolve and they're cashing out. But there's this other half that have restaked for 8 years, or relocked their neurons. So that's great to see. I'm a big fan of, you know those are important members of the community, important investors, and if they're participating in governance and really trying to um, move the IC forward, I say awesome. We need more of you, and so thank you to CDAO for setting that tone.
So I think that's a great segue to earlier this week. I woke up, checked my email, and there was a fresh edition of the ICP analysis newsletter waiting for me. And this week, Kyle, you wrote supply analysis update, an update on ICP supply dynamics. Tell me what's going on.
So speaking of naming, ICP analysis is probably one of the most boring names I could have chose. So I don't know. Maybe that needs to be changed as well. Um, so I wanted to just do a
We'll
quick
change
update
it to Definity. We'll
to
put up. I'll put up an NNS resolution to make you
Definity
change the name
analysis.
of your newsletter. I love. We'll just solve all of this, with the seed DAO approach of put it to the community.
Or an NNS proposal that Jesse must eat a burrito on Tuesday night.
I mean, you don't have to put up a proposal for that. I'll do that
Oh, you'll just do it.
voluntarily. Yeah, I'll log internet identity right into that burrito.
Can we
It's
can
no
we
problem.
somehow have a maybe this is on Twitter, or maybe we can do this on Discover, where basically the a community just takes control over what you eat every night?
Uh, I mean, you'd have to work that out with my
With your
wife,
wife.
and I've got a 1-year-old baby that seems to have extremely strong feelings about what I'm allowed to eat and not eat based on my experience.
When you're allowed to eat, that's the one thing babies are good at. Like, no, 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 no. 5:30 dinner. No, you're going to do it at 7.
Yeah, no, it's a lot more like, oh, you gave me some steamed broccoli and you're getting a burrito. I would also like your burrito, and that's
I
how I lose my burrito.
how how quickly babies figure out that what they have is junk and what you have is awesome. Like, I don't know what it is in their brain, but they're like, "Dad's enjoying that burrito. I bet you that's better than with this broccoli. I guarantee it. And I'm going to make him give it to me.
And it works.
Yep.
My baby is a Machiavellian genius, dividing and conquering me and my wife, and taking over, the power of the family. She has really established herself as the follow neuron of the family here, and and is accumulating power daily. Yeah, yeah. We're really getting into like crypto dad talk here and off
Yeah.
topic. We'll wrap up on broccoli versus burrito supply dynamics, and then we'll get
Hmm.
we'll get back to it. No, she her new thing is, because she's now 14 months, is she really wants to do what we're doing, and so she wants. We were sitting on like our front porch. It was a nice evening out, so we were holding plates and eating, sitting on like a couch on like
Hmm.
our front stoop kind of area, and she was really clear that she wanted to sit on the couch and hold the plate with us. And
That's
the
cute.
only problem with it was so cute, except for she doesn't understand that you have to hold the plate flat so
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
food stays on it. She wants to hold the plate vertically, or maybe upside down above her head, or any number of places that don't allow the plate to hold food. And so we're trying to get the plate straight, and she's getting mad at us because we're taking away her plate. It's a
Right.
whole,
Right.
yeah.
Nope. It's a thing.
All
That's
right.
awesome.
We'll come back. Maybe we'll save a little of this crypto dad talk for the after show. But supply me with some analysis here, Kyle.
Yeah, so high level, we're in this dark age of ICP supply right now. There's a lot coming off the NNS to the tune of almost 6 million a month. And those dark ages are going to end in the not too few. I mean, we're probably just 2 months away, or maybe 8 weeks away from that ending, where the supply will drop down into like 3.5 million for a long time. I'm a big component of price long term is set by supply and demand um, dynamics. So I believe that. And so, in my opinion, we should be seeing the dark ages of the ICP price thawing out, and the opposite of Game of Thrones, right? Winter is leaving, not winter is
Hmm.
coming. So
Summer is arriving here.
well, I don't, so in my article, I have zone two, which is like a year and a half long. Let's call that spring. That's a thawing. There's still a decent amount of supply. That I think that time is going to also see a lot of demand start to ramp up, which I think we can move that into a conversation about one of the articles you've written this week. But so let's call that spring, and then summer is going to be that zone three, zone four. Honestly, like most of the new ICP coming to the NNS is being staked for 4 years or 8 years. It's heavily, heavily favored being locked. Maybe that changes in the future. Maybe if the price goes up, people start dissolving more. But right now, I really do think that this like 2025, maybe 2024 to 2025, 2026, you're going to get in this situation where people are going to be like, holy cow, there's not enough ICP hitting the markets, right? Developers need it. We got to start getting more ICP on the markets. So anyways, yeah, from a supply side, we're in the middle of the worst. We're the lights at the end of the tunnel, and 8 weeks from now we'll be sitting here talking, okay, we got through it, we're going to make it, and life is good. So
So I wrote a post called when will ICP moon, and my answer was soon. And unlike you, who uses data and analysis and scientific rigor to form your opinions, this article is really just shooting from the gut for me. Like really, like here's how I see it. And the argument I made was that ICP is a platform, and what we really are looking for are breakout hit applications built on ICP that take advantage of its unique strengths. And so I highlighted a couple, specific areas of excitement. And I think if you're, involved in ICP, none of this is going to sort of sound, as big news to you. But the big areas I really see is social media and messaging. Discover, District, Catalyze, Open Chat, Tagger. That's like one big category that I could really see a breakout hit coming out. The NFT space with Entrepot, CCC, Meme Cake, Gigaverse's efforts. We've got a lot of new marketplaces. We've got new NFT projects, things built on functionality with NFTs, not just art. Then we've got DEX swap sites. A lot of this is really enabled by the big titanium release that just came out this week, the big new update to the internet computer. And so we've already seen a huge spike in converting ICP into cycles. And, we're waiting on, I look at the impact that are not even fully operational, Dexstar. Does that joke read here? Our fully operational Dexstar isn't even up, but we're able to see on that
Dexter.
dashboard the impact it's having. And then the last is the Bitcoin integration, that there's just so much, the smart contract ability of the internet computer combined with Bitcoin is going to sort of instantly unlock this entire new layer of functionality and smart contract abilities with Bitcoin enabled by the ICP. And so I
Hmm.
see all those areas and I say, we're out there looking for a hit. We're looking for something that connects with mainstream crypto and really like mainstream, that you could be using something built on ICP and not even know that ICP is involved, because it doesn't have to necessarily be crypto first. It doesn't have to be currency focused, any of those pieces that sort of a crypto project that mom will use, is sort of how I'm thinking of it. I'm sure your mother is extremely, involved in, she's a bit of a Ethereum head, I'm sure.
Right.
So those are sort of the big things that I see as a breakout. And I didn't, form this based on scientific research. I formed this based on kind of, my self-stylized opinion, basically, that
Yeah.
I'm like, here's how I see it. So my question to you is, I want to sort of, pit inside each of us. There are two wolves. There's the analysis wolf and the opinion wolf, and whichever wolf you feed sets the direction. But what is going to move IC price more, right? Is it
Mm.
usage and adoption, or is it supply side dynamics? Which of the gravity of those poles is going to make the difference, or is it like, and you can't just say, well, it's a
It's a
combination of the
combination
two. No, it's
supply
not.
and
There has to be, you
yeah.
have to pick a wolf. And no, but I think so. There's like a bunch of different things that could impact it. And, I think the prevailing other thing is the entire crypto market just follows wherever Bitcoin goes.
Mhm.
So if Bitcoin skyrockets, ICP could be along for the ride, or if Bitcoin, craters, we could be along for that ride too.
Yeah, I think so. That ICP Bitcoin pair is a good way to kind of take out that, like, hey, is the crypto market in general moving forward or down, or an ICP ETH pair? And that's been something that's been trending down with the big supply. Going to your question on, is supply or demand more important? Here's the answer. So supply is relatively known and predictable. Demand is completely, I mean, orders of magnitude unpredictable. So you could have, let's say, DeFi takes off because of Bitcoin integration and the dexes and the AMs that are coming out. Um, you could have DeFi go from basically burning tens of thousands of ICP per month to burning millions per month, and that could happen in the course of, let's say, 6 months or something like that. I mean, if you're burning millions per month, that's going to have a huge impact on the supply demand dynamics. So, in my opinion, like that's what's going to drive the price. The nice thing is that demand is currently not very high, so our base level is really low. So there's really not much more we can go down because and that's more of a comment from the fact of how new the IC is. Um, and that we're still in the early stages of building up like the social aspect. DeFi, DeFi wasn't even possible until just like a month ago. NFTs are just kind of getting their footing. So Jesse, the answer to your question is demand 100% is the thing that you want to be watching. Your article is great. It kind of captures that aspect of it. And it's there's not a lot of room down and there is almost infinite room up. So that's a little bit of asymmetry right there. If anyone's interested in asymmetrical bets.
Speaking of asymmetry, I'm gonna ask the hard question here then. So you said you think we're at the bottom. As of us recording it right now, ICP tokens at 16.79 cents. What do you think? This is obviously not financial advice. We're just, as we should say in between every sentence. Should I want to put more money into ICP? Should I hold out for $10? Should I jump in right now? What do you think?
I if so not an advisor, not I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm an
It's just
idiot, so
you,
don't.
me, and the
Mhm.
internet here. No one, no, this is very private. This is a safe space, Kyle. Tell me. So I think we all agree as the neurotic community, we're not going to hold you personally responsible. But for me, this is actually kind of a serious question that I really want to ramp up my personal investment and staking in the internet computer. And I'm not sure. Should I move some ETH into it right now, or should I hold out for a better deal?
So, well, those are almost two different questions. Because one is, should you move ETH into ICP, or the other question is, should you move fiat into ICP? I would say the ETH question you could hold off um, for maybe another month. I don't, especially with the Bitcoin integration not coming until May, maybe, and that's kind of the low of this, or the low point of this whole supply dynamic. Maybe you can hold off till then. But honestly, in my opinion, from a fiat perspective, ICP probably fair market values in that $40 to $60 range that we traded in most of last year, near the tail end of 2021. I think these prices at today are just a dynamic of this supply that's been coming off the NNS. It's a hiccup of the tokenomics. And in my opinion, and from what I am doing, is dollar cost average. Just start buying it now. Don't don't go all in right now. But really, I mean, if you're looking to get a position into ICP, you probably want to get that whole position in before May. Let's say before Memorial Day in the United States, right? Before you put your swim trunks on and hit the pool, you probably want to have your portfolio set how you're going to want it for the next few years.
We're dangerously close to providing useful, actionable advice here, Kyle. We better change off this topic real quick here.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I mean, I'm not so sure with the whole not financial advice, because you see that people say not financial advice, and then they'll give any, like, the thing that could only be interpreted as financial advice. So I'll couch it by just saying it's my
Not
personal
financial
opinion.
advice.
But honestly, I
You're just advising me personally here, because I am
okay.
actually asking for myself as well.
So
Um,
so I'll say I have Bitcoin, a decent amount of Bitcoin for that I've held for a few years now, and I love my Bitcoin. I go to bed happy with my Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin's going to perform really, really well in an unstable world where central banks are becoming less and less. I don't want to say trustworthy, but at least the trust perception is decreasing. And despite that, I am planning on converting at least a decent percentage of that into ICP in the coming weeks. So I'll just say that that's what I am doing. That doesn't mean that that works well for everyone. Doesn't mean it works well for me either. But
I mean, I'm just worried how crowded your bed is, because if I'm in there, you're in
your
there, Bitcoin is
Bitcoin's
in
in there.
there. Our wives are downstairs in the kitchen complaining, I assume,
Complaining.
in that scenario. Uh, no, I think this is really useful. So to kind of go back, I think the reason people say not financial advice is because that is a regulated industry,
Hmm.
and you need to be licensed to provide financial
I'm not
advice. And so
licensed, so just so
you
we're
are
on the
not
record,
licensed. None of
you're
us,
not
none of us are
licensed.
licensed. This is all opinion. But your sort of opinion recommendation to me is 16.7 is a fantastic price. It's a great opportunity, and it's worth taking. That price is an opportunity right now, and that in the future, there's a strong chance there could be a lower price as well.
Hmm.
But you want to hedge your, like all investments, you want to hedge your bets, with a diversified approach to when you buy ICP. I
Hmm.
guess that's not really that diverse, but
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, because of those supply dynamics, I think it's highly likely that we're in a period of months or quarters that the ICP price is depressed beyond what is fair market. So,
yeah. So for me, maybe put in 50% of, the amount of money I'm thinking about putting in at this price. and then kind of, wait and see what happens. And if it goes up, maybe jump on that, chase those candles a little bit. And if it goes down, that's also a buying opportunity as well.
Yeah.
And try, like we were just saying with NFTs too, it's only a loss if you sell. That if you believe in this project, if you buy at 16 and it goes to 10, that's an accumulation opportunity as opposed to a loss, and you can just take advantage of that. I mean, I've got some small altcoins that I bought at the tail end of last year during the metaverse ramp up that are down 90% too. So it's I've got some coins all over the map.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's a good investment approach if you believe in crypto, but you're not sure which project. I personally think this is the mindset, and I think this is good for people to understand if they're listening to this. What my mindset is, so you can kind of interpret whether your mindset's the same, and use that in evaluating what my recommendation is, or what I'm saying I'm doing. My mindset is ICP is a phenomenal asymmetrical bet, where it has, let's just throw, like, let's say it's a 50% chance it goes to zero in the next 10 years, and a 50% chance it doesn't go to zero, right? And I think those numbers aren't really correct. I would say the chance it goes to zero is not 50%, but let's just say that in that scenario where 10 years from now it hasn't gone to zero, the range of potential prices, it's not going to be at 15. There's no way ICP just in 10 years it hasn't moved, because it is almost this, it's got to go to either zero or it's got to ramp up, in the same way that Amazon couldn't still be a small company 20 years ago or 10 years ago, right? In 2001 there's no vision for Amazon where it just stays at a $2 stock price or whatever is that. So you have this opportunity where, let's say it's 50-50, where you lose all your money, but in that other 50% chance you could 100x or 1000x, and maybe 1000x is too much. Let's say you could 100x, and so your expected return on that bet is pretty phenomenal, right there. It's what 5,000% expected return. So there's not many investments you can make like that. I think the internet computer is perfect for that. I'm not putting in money that I can't afford to lose, um, which I think is pretty key. But again, that's where I come from. Is 10 years from now, where's it going to be at? I'm okay if it's at zero. I'm ecstatic if it's not at zero. So
Yeah, and I just want to hammer home that point while we're not providing financial advice, is that if you are looking for a stable investment, you should not be in the crypto space, period. Just
yeah.
just full stop. You need to be comfortable with that level of instability and stress. And I personally recommend not day trading, because that was bad for my own blood pressure, and my got yelled at for always looking at those candles. And that yeah, and you should not be risking your family, your home, your livelihood in that way. That you can, everyone's risk tolerance is different, but you really want to make sure. The future is unknown, and just because something is great, and just because you might think ICP deserves to win, doesn't mean it will win either, because
Mm-hmm.
everything, it could be the Betamax too, technologically superior, but it loses out for other market forces as well,
I mean,
which is not
Palm
what we
Pilot.
think is going to happen. I think both of us are real, and I think ICP, their sort of research and scientific focus, it gives it a real mediocrity, or a meritocracy approach, and we hope that the crypto markets work out that way too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but again, be safe out there, guys. You don't spend that burrito money all in one place.
So all right, so we did we talked about ICP price, which means that this podcast will actually the listens will moon, because that's what gets people to share and talk, is when you talk price. But honestly, let's move on, because it's I feel like price is cheap to talk about. But anyways, this is a good
That's what we're
conversation. But
saying. $16 each. It's
16.
cheap. That's exactly what we're saying.
Let's talk titanium. How about that?
Let's talk a little bit about titanium.
What
One of
so
my favorite metals.
I,
Big fan.
I have just a little side story here. When I was in college, we did a tour of a platinum plant in Baltimore.
Hmm.
and it's such an expensive metal that when you walk into this plant, you have to dress up and gown up in special clothes, and then they measure. You go
Like
through like a
the bunny
yeah,
suits
the bunny suits.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And then when you enter, you have to walk through like a metal detector that measures the specific iron content or just metallic content of your body, and it stores it. And then when you walk out, you have to match because they don't want people even like shaving off just a little bit of platinum every time and taking it out. And so we're back there. We're talking with some guy.
This is how the jail they put Magneto in X-Men 2 worked, if I remember
Is
correctly.
it?
That they're yeah, because he can control metal, so they have him in a plexiglass cage like a rare baseball card,
So nobody can
and
bring in a metal, any metal.
nobody can bring any. I mean, spoiler alert for X2, I guess. Someone brings in a teeny bit of metal, which he's
Mm,
able to pull out of like pulls it out of their bloodstream,
yeah. Well, you
and
have a
gets it.
decent amount of iron in
Yeah.
you.
So how much platinum did you steal?
Well, not enough. And then I bought Shiba Inu with it at the peak, and no. So this was in college. So this is, I don't know, 2000. When did I go to college? So this is like 2005. Um, and at one point, there's a tray of platinum and like bars and ingots and stuff like that. And I pick one up, and they're letting me kind of touch it and stuff like that. And the guy turns to me and he's like, "That's $1.5 million right there." And I was just like, I mean, it was like a bar. It was a bar the size of like a few candy bars together, and I was just like, "Holy cow! I will never hold this much value in my hand again." Um, so I went into an industry now where crypto, where you hold all your value in not real things, anyways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, all, things get very philosophical from here, where what is value? What is a dollar? What is it? It's backed by the faith of the government. Why do we think gold is valuable in the first place?
hmm,
Diamonds are fully manufactured, rarity as well.
yeah.
And so all at least crypto is honest about it, is what is that crypto may be a Ponzi scheme, but capitalism is a Ponzi scheme,
It
and
really,
crypto's honest about it.
I don't, when I fell down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and this isn't a Bitcoin podcast, but I'm going to go down anyways. When I fell down that rabbit hole, it really does, you peel back some onion layers that you're like, a lot of what we think is true is not true. Just like you said, like, um, you know, dollars are, you can trust it because it's got the backing of the United States behind it. And you're like, yeah, but the only reason I can trust is because Jesse trusts it as well. And once that trust starts to erode, that's a scary situation. And no currency has ever existed that didn't erode that trust. Yeah, I don't know. You start going down these rabbit holes that you're like, oh man, the emperor really has no clothes in all of our societal institutions, kind of thing.
Are you going to be broadcasting from your like prepper underground bunker next? No, I think it's true that you end up. I think it's actually one of the more interesting things about crypto is that there's a little bit of philosophy
Yeah,
that works its way into understanding. You quickly end up with a little bit of a discussion about Plato's cave,
yeah.
in terms of what is real and what is just a shadow, and maybe everything is a shadow, and that's when your head explodes and you need to get off the internet for a few minutes. So titanium. So titanium is the new release. It just came out officially, was fully published. They update the SDK, the programming tools, as well as roll it out into production so that everything, all the applications that are running on the internet computer have access to all of these new tools. And titanium, we were talking about titanium's focus is really on DeFi abilities, that it's enabling a lot of this functionality with these swap sites that we're seeing with Sonic and ICP Swap, Infinity Swap coming online. These new features are in this release, as well as Bitcoin integration. The developer preview is built into there, and then additional abilities for canister applications to look up on the ledger and additional upgrades to Motoko and pieces like that. And so it's worth mentioning all of these upgrades flow through the NNS, the beating heart at the center of ICP. But one of the things I really like about this is just seeing that the system works, right? These upgrades are coming. It's not vaporware. We are shipping software, and the internet computer continues to evolve and improve in really meaningful ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and we should put the roadmap in the show notes. But so yeah, titanium's complete, and all of a sudden now I'm like, okay, well, when's chromium coming? Like you always you know, but it is
What's next?
remarkable.
What's next?
Yeah, it is kind of one of those things where you look at the roadmap, and I do wonder, like this time next year, are we going to be sitting around going, what is next? Because this is a pretty aggressive year for Definity in terms of what they're trying to do. Um, and so yeah, I don't know, it's a very impressive roadmap, and congrats to them on sticking to timelines so far. So
Yeah, I think it's very impressive how much if we can keep our podcast release schedule as tightened up as the Definity Development Group does, I'll be very happy and proud of us if we can ship that reliably. But no, and in addition to that, one of the really cool things if you dig into there is they also create sample applications that are fully open source that developers can reference. And so you can actually go in, and there are example applications that take advantage of all of these new
mm,
abilities. So a sample deck site, for example, a sample swap site, ledger, these new ledger abilities, all of these things are built in. And so there's working sample projects that people can go in and clone and build off of, but it creates a template for developers to go in, because as the more I learn about coding, the more I realize that it's all theft and building on it's a lot of googling, how did someone else solve this.
yeah.
And so Definity is really supporting the developer community that they have that way by giving them these resources and these sample templates to build on.
Yeah, almost to go first full circle, that was one of my favorite comments in the forum about the name change proposal. Was somebody said, "Hey, when I have a problem in the code I'm trying to write, and I Google internet computer problem, it doesn't, the internet computer just doesn't help me find my search results. But if I do Definity problem, I get to where I need to be." So that was kind of a funny thing. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, so looking forward, you've got Chromium coming in the second quarter of this year, which will be basically, I mean, I think that the headline act out of that is the
Bitcoin,
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 Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Yep,
Bitcoin is getting out of Kyle's bed and into the
into the
ICP.
IC. Um, and so they even call it the Satoshi release, which I think is some
Mm-hmm.
pretty good marketing from an organization that I don't know that they really focus much on marketing to begin with. So well done on the change there.
I don't think that's true, actually. I think Definity gets a much worse rap than they
Oh, really?
actually deserve. I do. I think they do a better job of marketing, and they're doing lots of new things too. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, I'm a part of that, and so I'm a little biased here. Um, but I think Definity's marketing, I think not unlike the name change piece, it's something people like to really hammer on,
Hmm.
and that I kind of don't want. I of course we'd like to get the communication out there, but I also don't want Definity to lose their science developer
Right, right.
nerd core heart at the middle of the beast. I
Yep.
don't want the marketing and the bean counters to take over. I like computer scientists being at the center of this
Exactly.
piece,
Yeah.
because what I don't want to see is carbon is new marketing effort. I want to see APIs, I want to see code libraries, I want to see sample code.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So that's good. I'm glad you're standing up for Definity for on the
Someone
marketing.
has to.
Somebody has to.
Poor
Yeah.
innocent Definity needs Jesse to back him up here.
um, but yeah, no. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff coming out. You had the Bitcoin integration. The community fund also comes out with Chromium, which I'm not too sure what that is, but it's been in the NNS for a while, and I'm really looking forward to that going live. And then um, the carbon release, which is currently scheduled for second quarter of this year. That seems a little aggressive to me, but maybe they're progressing at a good pace. But that's the whole SNS. You had uh, was that that might be the one where the decentralizing the node additions.
Yep,
I'm scrolling
full
really quickly.
full EVM support as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, the SNS is a big feature that I'm very excited about too.
Hmm.
That the ability, the SNS is an extremely or the NNS is extremely successful DAO. That's actually really working, and the ability to plug and play that kind of interactive DAO. Getting everyone staked.
Hmm.
I guess metaphorically in the project. I think is going to be really key, and I'm really excited to see how developers take advantage of it too, and
Yeah.
having those tools.
We got to make sure we save some conversation topics for later, right? So let's not go too deep into the SNS. But I agree with you that that is
Yeah,
a
that's like a show
potential
on
game
its
changer.
own right
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
So, well, let's I think I like how show number 2 is going. I'm feeling good
You
about
feeling
this
good?
little middle meta commentary here. Yeah. Let's jump into a little Ask Neurotic. These are questions that come in on Twitter. If you have a question for us, go ahead and just ask it on our Twitter account, and you can be a part of the show. Today's question comes from FX Scotland, and his question was: should NFT projects, exchanges, and key ICP devs like Dominic have named wallets on the ledger canister? So should leaders and owners and developers forego their anonymous rights? I guess I would say privileges. If they are in a leadership position to help sort of dox themselves and avoid conflicts of interest.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I really hadn't thought about it until I saw it. I feel like I've been going first. Why don't you take this first, Jesse?
Absolutely not.
Ah,
No, I'll answer the question. Absolutely not. I do not think they. I do not think
yeah,
they need to. I think doxing yourself, and I mean, both of us go by our real names, and I have a very long internet history that people can find very silly opinions I tweeted from 2010.
you can't be a
Um,
politician anymore.
thank God. I think that's good for everybody. I mean, listen, I'm in the presence of the president of the NNS. I wouldn't even begin to attempt that. No, I think doxing is a voluntary tool where you reveal that information, and I think enforcing a system where you take away that privilege would be a big negative.
Hmm.
I agree that it comes with some real problems and that there's danger there when you're dealing with anonymous people. But I think that this is what crypto is. It's kind of a core fundamental tenet of crypto, both technologically and culturally. And I think moving away from that would be a big mistake. Now, should Dominic or should Kyle reveal, dox themselves and reveal that information as disclosure for an individual product? Maybe. In a lot of
Hmm.
cases, I think it's the right sort of marketing decision to build trust in the community. I'm a big fan of disclosure and doxing and revealing that information. But I think that is a lever that developers and leaders can pull, and I wouldn't want that decision to be made on their behalf.
Yeah, I think you said it pretty well, and it's almost a tool that each individual person has at their disposal, and there are times when. So, I mean, by doxing yourself, you're basically giving people a reason to trust you, right? And so, if that trust is more valuable than your privacy, which might be true in certain situations, it might not be true in other situations, then I think it makes sense. Um, I mean, I personally, and again, we're probably not the best. Both of us have doxed ourselves, right? Like you said, we're giving our online presence. We're not behind avatars um, or names, and so we obviously come from the idea of like, hey, look, I'm okay with this level of non privacy. So maybe we're not getting a viewpoint that's important on this, but I mean, I definitely feel like um, it's each individual person's choice to whether or not they do, and uh, there's probably times where you do want to do it, so people will have more trust in you. I assume the question is trying to get at the. My assumption is the question is really like, do we have a right to know what, let's say, what Dom is doing with his ICP? And that I don't know that we do. I'd have to hear a stronger argument for that.
I mean, I don't even mind people asking or a
Hmm.
project demanding. I think a community asking leadership to do a specific thing is acceptable. I have no problem with that. For someone to come into, a project I'm doing and ask tough questions about is there a financial conflict of interest, or
Hmm.
am I hoarding, in some way? I think a lot of this can also be solved. I kind of think if you put your head to it, you could probably figure out which neurons are Dominic's too, I suspect, if that was, something you wanted to do, because that is, again, it's anonymous but open source, right? It's the names are stripped off, but the data is all
Hmm.
there, especially now that your proposal has passed. And so I think, yeah, I feel I'm actually a little surprised at how strongly I feel about this. As someone that does not take advantage of I think it's so core to the culture of a crypto project. And it's like at the very heart of how a blockchain functions, that I would be very reluctant to enforce a system on like
Hmm.
that. If Dominic wants to do it voluntarily, totally in favor of that. People asking Dominic to do it or demanding Dominic to do it, that doesn't bother me either. But ultimately, it's going to be his right to either reveal that information or not. And I like projects that voluntarily show more and open the kimono more and give the community more of a space for leadership in
Yeah.
in these areas.
Yeah, I think the one exception would be in areas of conflict of interest, and that's more. I just think morally, people have an obligation to reveal their conflicts of interest ahead of time, and so that might be a case where if there was a conflict of interest, and I'm not saying that there is or isn't, I wouldn't know. But in those situations, I think it's important to reveal. Maybe not. Here's my account, but more or less, I'm doing this, but you should also know that I've done that kind of thing. So
I agree.
cool.
Well, plus if you Google my name, Jesse Friedman, what comes up is not me, because someone made a documentary a couple of years ago called "Capturing the Friedmans" that involves someone named Jesse Friedman that is very, very much not me. So you have to put Jesse Friedman beer or Jesse Friedman ICP or Jesse Friedman Definity to find me, I guess. So let's do recommendations. Uh, I'll go first. My recommendation this week, I've got a movie recommendation. I watched Pixar's new movie, Turning Red. Have you seen this yet?
No. Is it
So
the
it's
fox one
it's the Red
or
Panda.
red
Yeah,
panda?
it's the Red Panda. So it's about a girl who turns into a comically large, gigantic red panda. The animation is gorgeous. It's really, really beautiful. And it's a movie about mothers and daughters and pressure from family. It made me cry a little bit at the end. I really, really liked it. I thought it was really moving. I enjoyed it. I think the animation looks fantastic. It's about like the core group of girls that are friends are all animated in kind of slightly different styles representing their personalities,
Hmm.
which I thought was really cool. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So that's my
Is
recommendation:
that
is Turning Red,
is that Disney
streaming on
Plus?
Disney Plus.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
cool.
streaming on Disney Plus now.
Well, I'll stick with the Disney Plus then, and I'll say, I'll say you should watch Encanto, um, but you
No,
should.
we don't hold on. We don't talk about Bruno.
Oh, that actually is on the radio. I heard that the other day on the radio. Which brings me to my true recommendation: is you should also listen to the soundtrack. If you got like an Alexa, ask her to play, the Encanto soundtrack. And because it's Lin Manuel Miranda, who fame from Hamilton, did the music for Encanto, and he put so many tiny nuggets in it that if you listen to the music a second time and a third time, you pick on these little rhyme schemes or these little play on words, and so it just kind of tickles the brain.
We're actually probably listening to the Encanto soundtrack more than anything else in our
Oh,
house right
really?
now. That is, we talk about Bruno a lot. It turns out,
Is your
and
daughter is your
Lynn.
daughter like it, or she's
Oh yeah,
nap
she
time?
she
She's in.
dan what I notice is the wife puts it on, quote, for the daughter,
Mm-hmm.
but keeps listening once she goes to bed. No, it's a really great. I mean, I loved Encanto. I thought the animation was really great. I thought the story of the family. There's so much detail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you use TikTok at all, but they have that auto solving algorithm. So you watch one TikTok video about Encanto, and the algorithm goes, "Oh, it looks like you like Encanto.
Uh-huh.
Here's a whole bunch more." But there's so much cool design that goes in that movie where all of the
Ah.
characters. So it's about a family that lives in a magical house, and all the family members have like different powers, and all of their character designs reflect their powers
Mhm.
in their actual outfits as well.
Oh,
And
really?
then Bruno plays the part of Lin Manuel Miranda in it, and is voiced by John Leguizamo, who's fantastic. And then
Wait,
the
what do you mean he
lead,
plays the role of Lin-Manuel?
well, he has like his big number at the end
Oh, I see.
and he is like, it's like the part that Lin Manuel would have sung
I
himself
see.
if
I gotcha.
he had cast himself in it as
Yeah.
Hamilton
He
slash
did he
Bruno.
didn't have the opportunity like he did with Hamilton.
I don't think. Yeah, I think they went with the super famous movie star
Yeah.
for that part. But it's really good. The music's great. The story's great. I think the animation is beautiful. The finale also made me cry. I super. It reminded me of my own family in both good and bad ways. I like, and then the main character is voiced by the woman that plays Rosa on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Hmm.
And so she plays on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She plays, this steely-eyed, complete, reserve, hard-hitting cop. And here she's this bright, singing, cheerful. Apparently, she recorded some of those songs while actively in labor,
What?
on the before she went to the hospital to give birth as well. So you get the full family feeling running
That's
through that whole
the
movie.
opening number. She starts singing a lot quicker. That's probably because she's going into labor and has to get the
She's like,
song done.
she's like holding up her watch, being like, "I gotta go,
Yeah,
guys.
let's
I got a
sing us
hard
quicker.
out at the end of this hour."
Those are about as hard of
Exactly.
outs as you get.
Sure, sure.
So
Well, those are great recommendations, and I think that's yeah. So let's wrap it up there.
sweet.
This was great.
Yeah, no, I think we should do an episode 3.
I
Honestly.
think, you know what? I'm in. I'm in. We haven't decided how well to cook episode 3, but we will see you all back here next week. Please join us. Send us more artwork. We're still looking for more submissions for become the album art for Neurotic Podcast. You can tweet at us at Neurotic Pod on Twitter. You can tweet at Kyle at Kyle Langham, and you can tweet at me at ICP Jesse. And we'll see you all back here next week.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye. And then our last question to close out the show here comes from friend of the show, C. Dixon on Twitter. And he posted, this is a meme that's been going around. And I just want to, speaking of doxing yourself, we're gonna find out, Kyle, if you are a man of taste. There's a link to this in the show notes. I'm going to try and get fancy and put this in our show art right here. So if you're looking at a podcast player, hopefully you are seeing an image right now. It's 3 rows of food item. The first one is steak, ranging, one is a black and blue, very, very rare steak, to a disgusting 5 fully cooked steak. Then we've got a piece of toast, ranging from untoasted to a piece of toast that fell to the bottom layer of your toaster where it's been left for months and is a piece of charcoal. And then lastly, and this might be the most divisive, is coffee, ranging from black to a cup of warm milk, it appears to be. So which of these are your culinary choices
The
here?
way you described the well done steak is how I feel about that uh, over milked coffee. That just disgusts me to even look at it.
Really
Yeah.
bums you out?
All
Oh
right, so I'm
no.
going
This
to
might be the last episode of the
this.
podcast. We'll see how
Oh
this
no!
goes.
Oh no! Well, we'll just shift it to record at night, so I don't have to look at you drinking coffee. I'm going medium rare, so a little bit number 2 right there for the steak. For toast, I can be happy with a 3 or a 4, so
Mhm.
somewhere in the middle. And then coffee, I'm right there at the C. And if you venture too close to the D, take it back. And people who are drinking the A, so that's the black coffee, intimidate the crap out of me.
Mm,
There's
mm.
there's no bigger power move. So if anyone's negotiating with me and we're at a table, there's no bigger power move you could do than just sit down with a black coffee and sip it right in front of me, especially
Mm.
if it's steaming hot.
Do you like John Mulaney's stand up? He has a stand up about his
With
father
his
taking the
dad. Yeah.
family through the drive through and refusing to order any food and just orders one black
Black coffee.
coffee. Yeah, as a power. Good news, the podcast can continue. I don't have to ban you for poor culinary choices. I appreciate you saving me
Whew.
the trouble. Yeah, I'd say I'm a number two
All right, good.
for
The steak.
the steak. Definitely like a medium rare, maybe leaning a little more rare. I don't mind. I like things a little. I'm really. I mean, I'm into cooking pork medium now. Is like I'm
All right.
into pork a little pinker too now, which is hot take.
What about
Uh,
tartare? Have you gone raw yet
Oh
with
yeah,
with
yeah.
the
I
meat?
mean, I love beef tartare. Beef
Okay.
is great. Lamb tartare is really good. I mean, I'm reasonably culinary adventurous. I've had chicken tartare on a couple
Oh,
occasions.
oh
Um,
gosh.
there's a restaurant in Berkeley, California called
Like,
Ipuku,
is it called
which
salmonella?
no, it's and so they serve a chicken breast tartare, and so they poach the chicken very very lightly, so it's
Okay.
the to kill the out stuff on the outside. But we're talking about like a
Oh
one
gosh.
millimeter ring of cooked chicken, and
You're
then
gonna
that's
make me throw
diced
up.
up,
Oh, that is gross.
and it's served with like a quail's yolk,
Okay.
and then with like a little nori wrap, and you make like little tartare tacos out of it.
Nice.
It's really
I've
good. I
had
like that.
I've had a horse tartare before, and that was not good at all.
Oh, really? I like horse. I had horse in Japan,
A horse. I've had a
and
horse steak before, and this
yeah,
this is
sure.
these are the kind of conversations that turn people off, by the way, because they're
This
like,
maybe this should
they're,
be after show
yeah,
if this is.
yeah, because people don't like to hear you talk about eating horse. But I did have a horse steak before, and it was the greatest steak I've ever had. I had
Mhm,
horse tartare before, and it was like one of the worst meals I've ever had.
sure.
So you got
Well,
to
there's a
cook that
lot
horse meat.
of yeah. There's there you got to cook the show title, of course. You got to cook that horse meat. There I really understand people that are turned off by different things. I personally am on a mission to try all of the animals on this planet as a food source, given the opportunity. I turned down dog.
I was gonna say
Dog was where I drew the
I
line,
wanted to
and
ask that question, but I wasn't gonna ask it because I didn't.
I I have a photo that was on a trip. My wife and I were in Vietnam, and we were at a market, and we saw some roasted dog, and I knew exactly what it was, and I was like, that turns out that is my line,
Yep.
right there. But yeah, so for toast, I'm a four, which would be
Nice.
like a medium well, I guess, on the toast scale. And for coffee, I'm a B. And
Okay.
so
Okay.
I get heartburn, and so with my weak digestive system, uh, though it doesn't sound like it from this conversation, I guess. But I like just like a splash of milk to take some of the acid off.
Yeah.
Although when you make like a really really great cup of coffee, does not need milk. I
Yeah.
agree. If you have like a really nice pour over with really great beans, you can drink that black, and that can be very good. But my standard coffee is like a pour over drip that I make for myself with a tiny splash of coffee. But my wife, we've been married for over 10 years, and she still cannot put the right amount of milk in my coffee. It's kind of amazing. She brought me like a D the other day, and I was like, Ailey, we can't keep podcasting together if you're gonna make my coffee like this.
Wait, are you cheating on me with your podcast?
No. That's a theoretical
Oh, I
podcast that I
see.
do.
I
I
see.
don't actually do a podcast. I would like my
With your
marriage to
wife?
continue to be successful, so we do not do a podcast
Yeah.
together.
That's good. That's good. I'm not sure anyone wants to listen to a marriage podcast of that's not related to marriage. Maybe you're offering good marriage advice. I would listen to that with your wife, but any other topic, I'm not interested in a marriage
I
couple.
mean, we can get back to the spooning talk. Maybe that's
Yeah.
more of an after show kind of item.